Hi, I'm Stuart. Welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back. Thanks for viewing my video. In this video I'm going to talk about the heavy music I listened to in the 90s and the heavy music concerts I went to in the 90s. I define heavy music as hard rock and heavy metal, so I put it under that blanket's name. This is the third in a series of my music in the 90s that I'm talking about. The first was pop-oriented music, the second was country music. I originally conceived of the idea of doing this series after a discussion in the comments of a video by Kelly at Books I'm Not Reading. I revived this series after watching a video by Nicole at Nicole's Bookish Nook where she talked about her top 5 music genres. These videos are in addition to the book videos I'm doing. I'm still going to do the same amount of, I'm still going to aim to do the same amount of book videos per week, but these videos are in addition to that. There's no really set timetable for them. First, I'm going to talk about my top tier bands that I listen to. Those are the ones that real favorites of mine from that era. In 1994, I heard the song Closer by 9 Inch Nails. I love that song. I got the album it's on. I got the album the song was on, which is The Downward Spiral. It's a really powerful album. There's a lot of disturbing. Admittedly, some of the lyrics are disturbing on that one. If we're in a book, I would have several content warnings for you. 9 Inch Nails are an industrial band. Music is really hard-hitting, a lot of anger in the lyrics, in the singing. I got their earlier albums, Pretty Hate Machine and Broken, and I got some of their later albums too. In 1994, I heard Welcome to Paradise by Green Day. I love the song. I got the album it's on, Dookie. It's a great album. They're a punk band, but unlike the earlier punk bands, they were massively popular. They sold millions of albums. They were huge at the time, and they're still huge. I believe I got their first album, Kerplunk. I got many of their later albums. I love their sound. I love their energy. I remember coming home from work one day and stopping off, and I think the chain was called Strawberries, long out of existence, but I remember I got their album Insomniac. In 1994, I heard the song Self-Esteem by The Offspring. It's a great song with great lyrics. I'll never forget one of the lines, I might be dumb, but I'm not a dweeb, I'm just a sucker with no self-esteem. That line will probably stick with me forever. I actually have it on a t-shirt. A friend got me the t-shirt with that line on it. They're another punk band that became huge. Just like Green Day, they sold millions of albums. Never quite achieved quite the respect and critical acclaim maybe of Green Day, but I liked them actually a little better than Green Day, even though I love Green Day. I love The Offspring even more. I got their earlier albums, I got many of their later albums. Some of their songs had amusing lyrics. I suggest if you're not familiar with them, listen to their song Pretty Fly for a White Guy, watch the video too. It's really quite amusing. In 1996, I heard Bulls on Parade by Rage Against the Machine. I love the song, so I got the album. It was on Evil Empire. It's a great album. The music was hard-hitting, politically charged lyrics. I got their earlier self-titled album, another great album. I got one or both of their later albums. They never actually did put out that many albums, but got one or their later albums. I don't think people necessarily, at least from what I understand what their concerts were like, necessarily kind of got what their message was. They just kind of went with the aggressive music, and I guess their concerts could get kind of, possibly maybe a little out of hand. One thing I should have said up front is that there was way more bands, heavy music bands that I became fans of out of the 80s than I did out of the 90s. But the four I mentioned are bands that I really liked. And if I listen to them now, which I still sometimes do, especially The Offspring, I still really like them a lot. Now I'm just going to talk about some of the heavy music concerts I went to in the 90s. Mostly I'm just going to say what the bands were and the location, because I've been to so many concerts over the years, I don't really remember too many details of a lot of them. But in April 16th, 1992, I saw Metallica at the Hartford Civic Center. Second time I saw them. I saw them once in the late 80s. In March 9, 1993, I saw Guns N' Roses at the Hartford Civic Center. In March 27, 1993, I saw Def Leppard at the Hartford Civic Center. In April 24, 1994, I saw Rush at the Hartford Civic Center. In July 10, 1995, I saw Live at the Meadows. One thing I remember about that concert was that it was the final day of a week off from work, and I was pretty down about going back to work. And I remember going to that concert, and as concerts can, it was a great concert, and it made me, at least the time I was there, forget about the fact that I had to go to work the next day. In September 14th, 1995, I saw a co-bill of David Bowie and 9 Nails at the Meadows in Hartford, Connecticut. Trent Reznor, who's the leader of 9 Nails, he really is 9 Nails actually, he was a big fan of Bowie, so that's how the co-bill came off. Just remember that one, that 9 Nails played, and then Bowie's band came out and they played together, and then 9 Nails left, and then Bowie did his set. Although not a heavy music performer, I did love Bowie. One thing I remember about that concert, besides the transition, is that Bowie decided not to play his hit songs, which is all well and good for the people that know a lot of depth, but I didn't at that point. So I wasn't familiar with that many songs that he did. Not that I didn't like the concert, but when I go to concerts, I like them to hear the songs that I know, the popular songs. In December 4, 1995, I saw White Zombie with the Ramones opening. One thing I remember about that was that even though I was glad to see him, wasn't really all that impressed with the Ramones. I don't know, they just didn't impress me at that time. I know they're a legendary band, but I wasn't impressed. Glad that I saw White Zombie as a band. I did later see Rob Zombie too, and much more, just glad that I saw White Zombie. In August 2, 1996, I saw AC/DC at the Hartford Civic Center. Don't remember if it was that particular concert, but because I saw him 3 times, but he used to finish with For Those About to Rock, We Salute You, and they'd shoot off fireworks. I kind of always thought that song should be the first song. It was kind of funny. It was the last song. Although one time I saw him, I don't think they could do it because the fire marshal in Hartford wouldn't let him do the fireworks. In September 7, 1996, I saw the Cranberries at the Meadows. 1 or 2 times I saw them. In March 4, 1997, I saw Metallica at the Hartford Civic Center. In August 8, 1997, I saw Jethro Tull. I'm not sure the location. One thing kind of interesting about me saying those 2 bands back to back is I think that was the year that both Jethro Tull and Metallica were up for the Heavy Metal Grammy, and Jethro Tull won, and they got a lot of flack for it. But even though I agree that Metallica is a much better example of heavy metal, as a fan of Jethro Tull too, I was kind of torn about the discourse that occurred over that Grammy win. In August 9, 1997, I saw Aerosmith. I am not sure of the location. It was probably part of their permanent vacation tour, I have to believe, because I think that album came out in 1997. Really good album, a great comeback album. In June 18, 1999, I saw the Ozfest at the Meadows. I remember Godsmack was part of it, Slayer was part of it. I can't remember who else was. Now I'm just going to talk about the performers I mentioned, what I know about them, if they're still around, what they're doing now, or if they're not. 9 Inch Nails did a tour pretty recently. Trent Reznor is maybe, I don't want to say more famous, but he and Atticus Finch have scored a lot of notable movies, and I'm pretty sure they've won Oscars for it, so quite noted as he and Finch being a pair that have a lot of critically acclaimed scores for movies. I can't remember the last time they actually released music, but as I said, I know they did tour in the last year or two. Green Day still releases music, still tours. They often are highly placed at big festivals like Coachella and Lollapalooza. The Offspring still tours and release music too. It's kind of sad to admit that despite going to hundreds of concerts, I've never seen The Offspring. I did have opportunities, but I just never availed myself of them. Rage Against the Machine, as I said, they never released much music. They did have some recent tours, but partway through, or maybe even before, they had a recent tour scheduled and they just canceled, and I guess, I don't know, I don't think they're going to be a band anymore. I never saw them either, but they, as I said, they didn't release that many albums, so they didn't tour all that much either. Metallica still tours. Pretty sure they're still doing a tour where they do 2 dates in stadiums, and they do totally different sets for those 2 dates. They have a day off in between. Still releasing music. In my opinion, and I know others would disagree, but in my opinion, Metallica's not only the greatest heavy metal band ever, but I think they're the greatest American band ever. I recognize that their musical output there is inconsistency there, but I just think they're the greatest heavy metal band ever. And as I said, the greatest American band ever. The second would be probably more controversial than the first, but it's just my view. Guns N' Roses toured pretty recently. They haven't, to my knowledge, put out music in a long time. They didn't end up putting all that much music. Axl Rose, for the longest time, was really difficult to work with. I think he's got better. I saw them 2 other times, and one in 2017. Despite the fact they're up there in age, they played something like 3.5 hours. They had 7 encores. A little slow getting going. They were a little rough at first, both singing-wise and music-wise, but once they locked in, they were really good. Def Leppard still tours and releases music. Rush, I believe, disbanded when, I think their drummer, Neil Peart, I think he passed away. And I think that was they stopped being a band at that point. Live, I believe, I have seen recently, still tours. I don't know if they release music anymore. David Bowie unfortunately passed away. I talked earlier about 9 Inch Nails, still tours some, and what Trent Reznor's doing in his day job, I guess you'd call it, is scoring movies. I mentioned Green Day earlier. White Zombie was long since, I won't say disbanded, because basically Rob Zombie went solo, and he's had a lot of success. he still tours, still releases music. I did see Rob Zombie a few times. AC/DC is actually coming on a tour, I believe. I had thought they had stopped because their lead singer Brian Johnson, you basically couldn't hear anymore. But I guess they figured something out, because if they haven't already done it, it's coming soon. A stadium tour. Cranberries are no longer, because unfortunately Dolores O'Riordan passed away pretty young. Despite being a band since 1968, Jethro Tull still releases music, still tours. Lead singer Ian Anderson, last I saw him, which was maybe I think 2019. His voice is kind of shot, but they do still tour. Aerosmith had mounted a tour, and they postponed it because their lead singer Steven Tyler had some vocal problems, but they later announced that he couldn't get back to health, so they are not a band anymore. They retired. And Godsmack still tours and releases music. I'm not sure about Slayer. They had done a retirement tour, but I thought I heard rumblings that there might be some other tour, but I'm not sure about that. I'm also not sure about Ozzy Osbourne. The Black Sabbath did the farewell tour in 2016, which I was fortunate to see, the only time I ever saw them. And I had seen Ozzy too, but I don't know. Ozzy has Parkinson's disease, so I don't know what he's going to do. I'm sure they'll never mount a big tour. I don't know if it's possible to do an occasional performance. Editing stored here the next day. Just a couple things I wanted to add. As I was editing the segment where I talked about how I became an Offspring fan, I realized that I had not mentioned the album that Self-Esteem was on. That album is named Smash. Very appropriate name, because it was a huge hit for them. Sold millions of copies. Great album. It's a no skips album, like every song on it. If I listen to it now, I would still love it. Also mentioned, it's not a song that I became a fan of way back. It's in recent years, but the song Gone Away was a song that I happened to hear multiple times playing at a local Arby's I went to, and that became my favorite Offspring song. If I only listen to one song, that's the one. And I also realized, actually, when I watched Nicole's last music video and I commented some stuff, realized that there was one additional concert I recall in the 90s that I had forgot to mention. This was, I believe, 1991. The tour was called The Clash of the Titans. It was Megadeth, Slayer, Anthrax, and Alice in Chains. It was an outdoor concert at a place called Lake Compounds. Not too long after that, Lake Compounds stopped doing concerts. Doing concerts almost bankrupted them, but they did recover, and they're now doing well. Although they don't do big concerts. I think they might do little concerts now. I remember two things about this concert. One is that when Slayer came out, they were backlit in red, and I thought that was so cool. And also that, I'm not sure if they were booed, but Alice in Chains wasn't a great fit. They're certainly a hard rock band, they're a grunge band, but they don't quite fit into three bands that at the time were kind of maybe sort of on the extreme edge of metal. I mean, now there's like a lot more extreme bands, but at that time they were on the more extreme edge of metal, so it was kind of a tough tour for Alice in Chains. Like I said, I don't remember if they got booed or not, but I don't think they were received especially well. I think it's before they became really famous too, so that might have made a difference. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like, please subscribe, please hit the bell to get notified when I upload future videos. As I said earlier, most of my videos are still going to be book videos, but I still have more music videos to go to talk about, more music to talk about too. The aughts, the 2010s and 2020s.